Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Missle Industries XB Found Fairmont 351 Hardtop project. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, it is the middle of the week and I've decided to do some stuff. It's late night shopping night, the ladies are out shopping and my son is entertaining himself upstairs as you do when you're a teenage boy with a computer. And what I've decided to do tonight is to tack those flanges up, put some POR 15 on that plenum chamber, as someone recommended in the comments, and begin the process of dressing this engine bay with all the bits and bobs I have in boxes around the shed, so that I can slide this engine in. This episode, don't know when just yet, but I will dress as much as I can into the engine bay so that it's all ready to go when I finally pull the finger and commit to putting this engine in the car. And while I'm at it, I should probably mention that the wagon leaked fuel out of it while it was parked in the driveway last weekend, and I looked upon it in horror and said, has my fuel tank got pinhole leaks in it? Shit, I hope not. But as it turns out, it was the seal on the top where the fuel sender goes. So the tank is so full right now that if you park it in my driveway, fuel actually leaks out from underneath the rubber O-ring down onto the seam where it bolts into the car and then onto the ground, which I guess is kind of a relief because it's only $25 to replace the seal and the ring that secures it. So I'll have to get onto that hopefully during the course of this episode. It's kind of cold tonight and I'm thinking to myself, should I start the wagon up, get it up to operating temperature, obviously with the door open and the bum sticking out so I don't give myself carbon monoxide poisoning, and then just let the warmth of that engine suffuse its way through the garage tonight and what's probably going to be a single digits overnight temperature. I recall in my youth I had a mate with an XD with a Cleveland in it, and that's exactly what we used to do. We used to roll his car into the shed after it had been running while we sat around drinking beers, and the radiant heat from the motor of his car kept us all toasty and warm while we drank. It was good. So, other than the beer drinking, I might get on and have a crack at doing that with this car. I'll warm it up, put it outside, and then sometime after dinner I'll come back out here and the garage should be toasty warm with the heat from the motor. So I better get on to that. Well, it's not toasty warm in here, but it's definitely warmer than it is outside right now. According to my wife, it's currently 11 degrees outside and it's definitely not that bad in here. So what I think I'll do is I will tack some of these pieces together. I've already cut my 45-degree bends going on the input side of my merge pipe. One of these is a bit short, so I'm going to have to do a bit of a pie cut sometime during the week to make that all make sense. For the time being, I'm going to weld the flanges into these so that I can start positioning and manoeuvring things, because these pie cuts are 90% of the way to being the right width, so if I just add a bit of length to one of them, I should be most of the way there, and that will look pretty decent. That one on there like so, that one on there like so, and the plan will be to cut these off nice and short so that I can run the pipes down either side of the tail shaft. That will give me my twin pipe set up after this pulse merge, and it should all be ridgy-dig. So time to get to tacking. And then I'll throw some PLR 15 down on that engine bay, or down on that cowl panel with the leftover paint from last time, before I wrap this up for the night, because it will get colder as I fluff around in here, and I'd like to be inside nice and warm from the rest of my family for the rest of the evening. So I'll do a little bit of work, and then I'm going to GTFO back inside the house. It's probably also worth mentioning that after I did my first cut with the drop saw, I realised I still had all my painting stuff down this end of the shed, all my thinners, all the other bits and bobs, so I thought it would be prudent to move all of that flammable stuff away from my cutting and welding area. So that's all done. Now, time to do some welding. Alright, the plan here is to just tack these 45-degree bends into these flanges. There's quite a bit of scope for these to go either out or in, so I'm going to tuck them in as close as I can get, and then I'm just going to rotate them around until it all makes sense, and I'll attach the X merge to one side and then just see what I've got to work with the rest of it. I need to find somewhere to put this camera close to the action. The object of this exercise is for me to be able to hinge these in and out, because I've only got one tack on the outside, so I want to be able to pull it in and pull it out depending on what my merge wants to do. Time to bring the merge in and see how it all works. That seems so close right there, doesn't it? Like that would just work with a little bit of finessing. So I'll tack one side up and I'll leave the other side open, and we'll see what we can and can't get away with. So close. Maybe I should grind that one off and then redo it once I've got this one welded on. I might just tighten those V-bands right up and then maybe put another couple of tacks on those clamps and just see how it all shakes out. Okay, so now theoretically, since these V-bands are only welded in one spot on this side of the V-band and 4 spots on the manifold side of the V-band, if I tighten these clamps right up, these V-bands should both be flush on the face of each side, so they should be clamped together with a nice leak-free seal, because the band should be free to move into position to mirror the other band, which I've firmly anchored with 4 spot welds, I will admit. So what I'm going to do now is run a tack on the inside of there and then on the inside of there. So I'm going to take it all apart and see if the flanges butt up nice and smoothly together while they're connected. And if I do, well, if they do, even if they don't, I'm going to call it a win for the night and say, right, my X pipe merge has begun, and on the weekend when I can make noise, I will lock these 2 exit pipes off and cut a couple of 45s, much the way I did with these, weld them on so that the X pipe goes that way rather than into side exhaust, as awesome as that would be. Twin side exhausts right under the doors, or not, but that's what I'm going to do. This is all on the experimental prototype phase, because obviously I'm just using tacks that I can comfortably reverse, because once it's all under the car, all of this might change and I might be forced to do it all over again, but for the time being I'm pretty satisfied with the way this is going, so let's smash some tacks on it, take it off and see if it works. That looks right if you stand right back here, doesn't it? I could already hear the metal shrinking and contracting as I welded that top one there. That one's pulled out of whack a little bit. I'm tempted to throw a weld in on the underside of that just to pull it together a bit, but I've just realised something. If I get these round the wrong way, they're not going to make any sense, so they go on this way. Now, fortunately they've gone wider than I anticipated, so last time I throw gaskets and stuff on to these headers and leave everything loose-ish while I bolt the V-bands up, this should totally work. That is not bad for an evening's effort, so time to move on to the next bit. Alright, so I've poured the POR 15 into the plenum chamber and spread it all around, and I have gotten to all the crevices that I could reach without making too much of a mess, so I'm going to leave it at that and then address it in the morning and see where we're at. So that'll do. It's not getting any warmer in here. Okay, it's the next afternoon and my POR 15 has dried. Never mind that line down the firewall where it's kind of just gone all the way to the ground. I'll address that in the distant future. after there's a motor in the car and I see how much of it I can actually see. At this point it's below the seam line, so I'm just going to live with it. And I've attempted to drain the transmission fluid out of that C4, and boy does it look terrible, like it's full of water or gunk or something, but it looks wretched. So I'm kind of torn. I should really rip that C4 out because I don't need it in there, but I have no idea where I'm going to put it for the time being while I'm moving everything else around. So it's easy to live with it right there, but it does need to come out, and it would make the most sense to me to get that out sooner rather than later, so I can do all the other stuff in the engine bay that I need to do without it getting in the way. So I should really just take it out, shouldn't I? I should just bite the bullet, drop the transmission crossmember down, pull that transmission out, and then stick it down the side of the garage or something with a tarp over it or something like that, because I don't need it. I don't even know if it works, and I have no desire to own a C4 in anything I have in the future, although no, I'll just take it out. I'll just take it out and I'll put it somewhere, and then I'll think about what to do with it later on. Alright, decisions have been made. I'm pulling out that C4 Auto. I'm just letting the oil drain out of the back of the C4 now that it's on a funny angle. I've made a bit of a mess. And while I wait for that, I'm going to weld the flanges onto these extractors, because that needs to be done sooner rather than later, so I'll get that out of the way now. Seeing as how I'm welding through such a thick piece of metal, I've really cranked up the voltage, and it really does help with the flow of the weld. Much better weld with more voltage. Have you ever noticed when you pull an automatic transmission out in your shed, like a true backyarder, you can't avoid spilling a little bit of transmission fluid on the floor? And today is no exception to that, and the good news is my green automatic transmission is over there on that dolly. So once I've smashed it underneath my workbench, probably over there, I can move on to the next phase, which is dressing this engine bay with all the goodies that I've rebuilt or had rebuilt. Because pulling the auto box out of one of these cars, again, a job I've never done before, but it's behind me now, so now it's time to crack on putting this car together. Bloody auto transmissions. Look at the mess they make. I think I'm going to go have an afternoon cup of coffee, and then I'm going to come back to this, hopefully when that tranny has stopped spewing transmission fluid everywhere. Okay, I've had coffee and some contemplation time, and now it's time to get that over there. Hopefully this works out. This job is not getting any less messy the longer I leave it. In fact, it looks like all the oil that was underneath my oil pan is just dispersing back out onto my floor. So, damn it. I don't have the engine, I don't have the gearbox mount off this C4, so I better get that off before I put this gearbox away. Most of the way to the next part of this. Clean that mess up. Clean that mess up. Start unpacking goodies. Okay, mess cleaned up. C4 under the bench where the 302 is currently living next door to it. So that's a good result. 351 single rail gearbox right here, ready to go. Engine bay almost ready. What I'm thinking I'm going to do this afternoon is scrub down those chassis rails and apply some GMH black. Now this tin has been on my shelf since I built the last coupe. It still sounds like it's good. So I might try and use this. I'm just going to brush it on underneath there so it just so it's black instead of yellow, because of reasons. So that's the plan. Before I go bolting everything in, I'll just put some of this under there to remove the last of the yellow that I can see. Maybe paint some of the green bits black that have accidentally been painted green, and let that dry while I do dinner, and then come back to it tonight. Maybe put some stuff in. See how I go. Temperature's dropping, and the wagon's bum is hanging out of the garage, so it'd be in my best interest to utilise this time while the wagon's sticking out of the shed to get some stuff done that requires me to move around the car. So anyway, I'm going to do some tedious cleaning, which you don't need to see, and then I'll pick this up once I'm ready to throw some paint down. Hopefully this paint is still good. Sounds like it. Okay, I got carried away and I did the inner wheel arches too because they were quite grubby. And it's after dinner now, so it's time for me to get in there with some black paint and just go over all the bits that I don't want to be green. And just see how it all comes up. I have done the black on the chassis rails in a ham-fisted fashion. Oh, and on the transmission tunnel too, so that's that. I've had a setback. When I got my power steering box back, they told me to get a new steering coupler because this one was shot. And I ordered a new steering coupler and it's arrived But it doesn't fit. The spline's too small. And I seem to recall it said XW, XY, XA, XB, XC, XD, da, 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 da. But this is clearly different to an XB, XC steering coupler, and it does not fit. Far too small. So that's annoying. Before I forget, this needs to go into this fuel tank, so hopefully I can stop my car's fuel leak, which should be super important while I drive this car around, particularly since the fuel tank is in the boot space, in the cabin where I have to smell it. So, fix this. That should theoretically be that. As you can see, that seal was toast. Oops.